What are the 7 stages of speed development, right? What is required at each stage of development? So there's 5 of them. Fundamentals, so grades 5 through 8. Performance, right? Grades 9 through 10. Performance 2, grades 11 and 12. Collegiate, and then professional athletes. What you have in each development, right? The number one thing to understand is how stress affects each development of individuals, right? When we look at the fundamentals, grades 5 through 8, stress levels are very low, both psychologically and physiologically. They don't have the neural capacity to handle true stressful life events because they have no preconceived reference points, like we talked about in the formation of memories in human development. Furthermore, they're still very pliable. Their tendons, their bones, their muscles are all still growing. Therefore, they can handle a lot of collision and impact on their frames because they are still growing and they need that certain level of stress that they're experiencing on the ground. They still need collision while they run. They still need to fall and land in weird different positions. They still need to pick funny things up off the ground, right? Their bodies can handle that. That is part of the stress growth process for all of them. But most importantly, neurologically, during that phase, what is referred to as neuroplasticity, this is where the brain is the most pliable. This is where the brain is going to be able to make the best adaptations from a technical standpoint, from understanding inter and intramuscular coordination, how their bodies move in time and space. Performance number 1, right? Grades 9 through 10. This is where puberty begins to lie. This is where there's a hormonal aspect to it. This is where you're going to see in further lectures that we'll talk about why energy system and power and all of those things are going to play a role, because they are a byproduct of hormonal responses that you need to capitalize during this phase. Furthermore, there's still neural developments yet to be made. There's still coordination that can be developed in these individuals, right? Because everybody has a different growth curve. You're an early bloomer, you're a late bloomer. That far exceeds where your body is. You might have an individual who's in 6th grade and they're having facial hair, they're going through puberty, but neurologically, that might also mean that they don't have a lot left to go, just in terms of the development holistically of the nervous system. Now, in grades 9 through 10, it is important to shift your focus from more activities, live gameplay, which we'll talk about, to more actual structured training and development, from lifting, from developing the foundational properties of strength, force, production, torque that are needed to perform their sport, that are needed to perform the sprint. As we transition to performance 2, grades 11 and 12, this is where you begin to see where athletes truly peak and where they can kind of tap out, or if they have a lot left in the tank, right? This is why we talk about in our programming section, novice, intermediate, and advanced. This is why you have to understand where somebody is, what percentile they fall into in each stage of development. Because I could have an NBA player who walks through my doors, he's an advanced athlete, he's in the NBA, but as it pertains to neurological coordination, neuromuscular demands, total strength output, total speed exposure, power output, he could be a novice. He could have very little of those qualities, but what make him a great NBA player might be just his extreme skill set, his anthropometrics, not necessarily his physical and neurological attributes. As we move on, collegiate athletes, they are pretty much where they're going to be. You can know if they're going to be a professional or not. They have a lot of underpinned or underlying qualities that make them so successful. For example, an athlete who has a high 1% percentile peak force output and acceleration, but no technical ability. So you could see this individual has the physical qualities of somebody who is elite and a professional athlete, but we need to improve their technical ability to help express that force production. So that is what we're going to spend a lot of time on. And then we're going to help keep maintaining or even slowly developing those physical qualities over time as we get going. Now, when they're a professional athlete, this is now when there's an inverse relationship, right? The skill acumen of their ability to perform different drills is pretty high. So we're trying to just fine tune things. This is where we really deep dive with professional, sometimes collegiate athletes, our force velocity profiles and our load velocity profiles. I need to know exactly, right, where you fall in terms of percentile for load. I need to know exactly where you fall in percentile in terms of peak force output, acceleration, decreased rate of force, horizontal force, and even your Pmax. So once you get to that level, it's all about nitpicking. But there is so many gains, if you will, to be developed during fundamental performance 1, 2, and even at the collegiate level. So understanding these stages of development and what the focus needs to be is super important.